You wondering who will be diving into the stuffing less than 2 times? Or who will be eating more than 3 pieces of pie on Thanksgiving? Well, then you got to play the Pick 6 game from DraftKings. Your shot to turn a little cash into a lot. It's super simple to get started. First, download the DraftKings Pick 6 app, now available in Texas, California, and more. Then select between 2 or more players and choose if they'll have more or less than a certain stats, like yards or touchdowns, sacks, whatever. You choose if they're going to have more or less. And for the first time, Pick 6 players, check this out. New customers play $5. You get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use the code BALLERS. That's the code BALLERS for new customers to play $5, get $50 in Pick 6 credits. Only on DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus bets awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 30 days. Limited time offers. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
The DFS Studio is brought to you by DraftKings. Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome back. It's Tuesday, December 17th here on the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I am joined, as always, by Matthew. He got punched in the mouth, Betz.
Not the mouth, Kyle. The nose, unfortunately. There's a very good chance that you'll see me on the Dynasty show, so if you want to head over to YouTube for that, you can make fun of me. Thank goodness this is audio only. I was shaving last night, and I can't really grow a beard or like any facial hair. It's just, it's patchy. It's like
I've never seen you with any type of real facial hair
because I can't grow it, which is ironic because my brother and my dad both were able to grow just great beards. But for me, no, I look like a 17-year-old kid. So I'm shaving last night, and I got a little nick right below the nose, like right at the base of the nose. It hurts so bad. And now it won't stop bleeding. we're a good, hours past here, obviously, the next day. So I have a Band-Aid at the base of my nose. I look like a complete idiot. And it's a good start to the week, Kyle. we're just trying to get to the holidays. We're limping to the end of the season. But yes, I look absolutely ridiculous right now.
Yeah, it's your philtrum, just to give you some medical, terminology to throw in there. Called? I mean, it is. It is the little groove, right below your nose, right there. If you really want to get technical, like the spot where yours looks is your apical triangle, and I didn't just Google that.
Definitely not, and you definitely didn't just look off to the side to look at a computer screen.
I'm just trying to inform the people of what I get to stare at on our audio-only podcast, but it is, it's nice to see you take one in the kisser, and just have to fight through. This is a football show.
We're grinding.
We are grinding with DFS because this past week was wild. We're moving on to week 16, and every single slate is different. I want to start the show off by explaining that. Like, the strategies you used the week before, and you thought, oh, well, here's the chalk plays. I'll just play the chalk plays. Or, here's a lineup I see from everyone else. I'm just going to play that. When we have a monster slate, we just had tons of games going on. What happens is that the roster percentage kind of gets spread out. And I think that was the hardest thing to navigate from this past week, and maybe is something to write down. I know somebody's got their little notebook. They write their little lessons learned for DFS. We do a show, just kind of reviewing everything. And for a lot of people, it's good information just to kind of remind yourself, like, okay, I have to attack this differently. This week was a great reminder that what everyone is doing doesn't always help you in cash. Like, the best plays at wide receiver were actually dudes that were lower in roster percentage.
Yeah, it was a weird week in cash for wide receiver because there's usually three, maybe two that are like, okay, everybody's playing these dudes in cash, I'll just play them. But nobody wanted T Higgins. I was shocked he came in below 20% in double ups. Brian Thomas Jr. was an absolute smash. Thank goodness I played him. But it was just so spread out. There was Adam Thielen, Elijah Moore kind of entered the conversation when we got the Njoku news. I did play Elijah Moore, regrettably. Some people spend up for, Amon-Ra. It was just there's so many ways that you could have built on this slate. And I think that's a good reminder too, is on these big slates, not just for cash, but also for tournaments, there's just so many plays that really, really strong plays will come in under rostered. In tournaments, the Aaron Rodgers stacks were an absolute smash. I was lucky to have one of those.
Hat tip to you.
Mike Evans, Mike Evans without Chris Godwin was a sub 10% guy in tournaments. Those are just the kind of plays you could get access to when the slates are so big. So when we get those little 10 gamers or even smaller, obviously for the holiday slates, that's just never the case. But these big slates, I just love to get off the board a little bit because the chalk isn't quite as obvious, and quite frankly, sometimes it's not as strong. So yeah, I thought it was a really fun week for tournaments. Kind of a tricky cash slate because of the way people were building. It was just not so straightforward.
Yeah, so we'll review, talk about what we did. We were fortunate both to cash yet again. Very different lineups we built, but we both cashed. And then we'll move on to week 16, which is an interesting slate, including 2 Saturday games this weekend. The NFL, I saw a commercial when I was watching the glorious game known as the Falcons and Raiders. What a game. I mean, what a game. But then the NFL is basically patting themselves on the back saying, look at us. We have football almost every single day of the week over the next couple weeks. And I'm just thinking my wife hates this commercial. She hates that that's what's on TV.
Oh my gosh, man. I've been trying to just slowly kind of let it out to let my wife know, this is the situation, and casually, for weeks, been well, there's Christmas Day games this year, letting her know, not just one, we got to have 2. Hey, the Saturday games start, oh, by the way, there's 2 Monday night games tonight. And she just hates the NFL. She hates it. But that's what we're here for. It's really funny though that at this time of year, there's so much football. And if you're a college football fan, we get the college football playoff this weekend. I'll be at the Penn State game. If anybody is there, come say hi. But just come find me among 100,000 people. But it's a wild time. And if you're a football fan in general, it's just a really fun time of year. So lots to be excited about. And the nice thing about these little extra slates for us from DFS standpoint is there's just more options to play. So I'm excited for the next couple of weeks. Should be a ton of fun.
Yeah, in our schedule, we will still be trucking all the way through the last couple of weeks of the regular season into the playoffs. We do have some holiday schedules for the Footballers main show and the Dynasty show that will shift. But DFS and Betting Podcast, we're going to be with you for the next couple of weeks, 2 times a week still. And then we'll be doing playoff pods, talking about those. So moving on.
Straight cash, homie.
As we mentioned, I think the way you won in cash this past week is it didn't really matter what you did at quarterback. I mean, if you played Josh Allen, congrats. But majority of the field was playing Kyler or Herbert, and that was almost a wash. I played Herbert and, came out a little bit. But because I didn't play Kyler, I ended up on Connor. And so that was kind of the situation right there where, a lot of people were playing Kyler, maybe weren't playing Connor in the same lineup. So that was a good, little swap for me. But I would say everybody was playing Chuba. Most people were playing Dowdle or some other combination. It kind of came down to who the plays were around 30% or below in double ups that really made it for you. So I looked at my lineup, I'm like, man, I had some duds. I had Amari Cooper who put up a goose in cash. So not just in tournament, but in cash. And looking back now, that's oh, why did I play Amari Cooper in cash? But 14 targets the week before. Love the matchup. That didn't look great. But my whole lineup was basically made on playing Chase Brown, James Conner, and then my guy, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, that is my dude.
Unbelievable performance. Yeah, and you got the literal perfect game script for Amon-Ra to just smash, which I have him everywhere in season-long leagues, whether it's Dynasty or Redraft. So I did not play him in cash. I had a couple tournament lineups that were really fun with him, and obviously in season-long that was massive. So thank you for the call there, Kyle. Your slate breakers, I feel like you've kind of had like a little spidey sense for them this year. So I need to start paying attention more. But yeah, he smashed. For me, for cash, I thought wide receiver was just so difficult. Like when we didn't get Rashad White because Bucky ended up playing as a cash play, it was pretty clear. Like you're playing 2 or probably 3 of Chase Brown, James Conner, Rico, and Chuba, and kind of picking your favorites there. And then, and obviously at tight end, a lot of people played Stone Smart. So like a lot of your lineup was kind of built. You already mentioned people are playing Kyler Herbert. So it was like wide receivers are going to make or break the cash slate for you. Like I said, I was super lucky to land on Brian Thomas Jr. We're going to talk about the Jets today. They are one of the worst defenses in the league over the last 6 weeks, which is just when you log in on your apps, in season long or in DraftKings or wherever, it shows up red. Like it still shows up red. And like psychologically, it's like, it's a tough matchup. They are getting absolutely shredded. So I felt really good about Brian Thomas Jr., especially without Evan Ingram. Again, no Gabe Davis. Like there's just nobody there, and he is so talented. So thank you, Brian Thomas Jr., for breaking the slate. I also played T. Higgins. He came in way lower than I thought.
Like 33%.
Oh no, in double ups he ended up being below 20% is where I had him. So yeah, I was super surprised, but it doesn't mean that those were definitely the right plays. I think I was just fortunate to land on some high ceiling guys that hit. It was a tough week for cash. I thought it was really, really challenging to kind of parse through some of those wide receivers. I do have to ask though, why did you play Amari in cash, man? I mean, 'cause that wasn't even on my radar as a cash play, just with the return of Kincaid and Keon Coleman.
Yeah, so 14 targets the week before stuck with me a lot. The man coverage part stuck with me a lot. Like, it's one of those things where I feel really good at breaking down matchups. I feel really good at looking at stuff. Like, the last 2 weeks, it was like, man, Puka's going to ball out against the Bills. Man, Amon-Ra is just set up against them as well. And so I think what I start to do is go down that rabbit trail of like, here's what I can do. I didn't want to play Adam Thielen. And so that was really the play of like, I don't mind getting different here than the rest of the field. So maybe it was part of my own hubris of just saying I'm going to get different. He was played by like 15% in cash. So it's not like I was the only person. It just fit pricing wise where I was going. And Amon-Ra was an awkward player too. He was, I think, 14%. So a lot of the construction of what you had was different than maybe some other people. I mean, I made a 1v1 decision of playing Calvin Ridley over Brian Thomas Jr.
Oh no. No.
But once again, let us not forget, I somehow have cashed for the 6th week in a row.
Dude, you're running like the sun this season. Yeah, you've had a great year in cash. So hat tip to you, my friend. It's been, I would say the second half of the year for me has been a lot better than the first. Still up on the year, but this is your year. This is your year, Kyle.
This is my cash year. I still feel like in tournaments I haven't hit a ceiling. I haven't played the same volume this year, just to be honest. Like, I was more of a GPP player years ago, and this year I felt so comfortable reading the slates on cash that I've kind of become like, the last couple of weeks, I think I'm 80-20 cash to tournaments.
You're getting old, man.
I know, that does feel so soft that I'm just all of a sudden like, because everyone else is like, no, I'm an opto bro. But it is fun. It's fun dissecting it, and we enjoy what we get to do. My last little point here is when you have a massive slate, there's no bye weeks. The chalk is not going to condense at wide receiver like it has before. So keep that in mind. Like, you probably, like, if you like a player and you're like, but everyone else is playing this guy, it's like, it's okay to pick a wide receiver because all of them have real ceiling outcomes and they might show up at like 20%. So I was really far behind the cash line going into the afternoon window, but I knew I had Amon-Ra. I knew I had Herbert. I knew I had our boy Stone Smart and James Conner. So it was like, I could make that up because they weren't as popular as I thought they were going to be. Always great after a week like this past week to see in our Discord some good winners. So Betz, you want to read a couple of these for the people?
What a name this is. Camo Don't Hide Fat. As always, thanks Borg Betz. Bombed on some GPP lineups and the early and late saves, but keep cashing my double ups and that makes up for it. That's part of what we talked about with our process. I think we get a little bit of pushback from some people like, oh, you guys focus too much on cash. Sure. Why don't you focus on the lottos and stuff like that? And it's because those things are really, really hard to win. but you can win in cash and sustain your bankroll. And if you're still playing with us, in week 16, as we look forward here, that's a win on the season in our opinion. So we like that aspect of it. Captain Drufus also said they had a great week using the DFS Opto this week. So congratulations to them. I'll let you read the last one here from Sam White, who is the GOAT of Discord.
Yeah, Sam White's been around our brand and stuff for a long time, but he said not as good as of a day as it was 10 minutes ago because there was some Lions garbage time. If you were in a tournament and you're like, sweet, I'm there. That game lasted so long between Buffalo and Detroit. But he said, but I think I can afford to go to Chili's. Thanks, Borg Betz. I got first and fourth in the Ballers tournaments and fourth in the triple option. I just want to highlight the tournaments that Sam's playing here, and we talk about them all the time. There are 3 max tournaments that are way better for your bankroll, and you can actually have strategy involved as opposed to just throwing one dart in the Millie Maker. So, like, for instance, the triple option is $9. It's a 3-entry max. So the Engage 8 is what we talk about a lot. Those are the type of tournaments where you go in and let's say, like, a lot of people were using your Rodgers double stacks. I'm not saying they were yours only, but you did talk about them and they showed up a lot more. And maybe they show up this week. Maybe. But, I mean, if you played Rodgers, Adams, and Wilson, not only were you way down roster percentage, you could probably, go pretty far in a tournament.
And bring it back with Brian Thomas Jr., which was pretty clear. Or Brenton Strange. Both guys actually smashed. Yeah, that was a really fun stack. It's interesting about that game because I don't really know how I stumbled upon it. I think it was just like the simple, what's the meme, like the bell curve meme of like the thinking where it's like, oh, they're playing the Jaguars. Like, we should just play these guys.
I could tell you how you stumbled upon it.
And then you also realize there's so much value in pocket quarterbacks where if you know where the ball is going, if it hits, you're likely to get not 1, not 2, but sometimes 3 spots right out of 9 in a lineup. That's super valuable in a tournament. So, like, if Rodgers hits a ceiling ever this year, it has to be with Devontae and Garrett Wilson, right? At least one of those guys. So you have so much value in just kind of knowing where it goes that's why I've been kind of playing some of these Rodgers stacks recently. Other examples too, there's different teams where that works, whether it's like Jared Goff, like he's not hitting his ceiling most likely without 2 of his guys, right? So you kind of just know how to play these stacks. But yeah, the Rodgers thing was interesting. And the game total was too, it was like the lowest on the slate. I don't know how I stumbled upon it throughout the weekend.
Let me tell you how I got to it. There's somebody listening to the podcast right now and they're like, they know exactly how. And I do too, because your co-host on this show a week ago said, hey, there's this sneaky game I kind of like. The total's really low.
You did say that on a Tuesday.
It's correlation. Yeah. Now, did I play Rodgers? No, I didn't play Rodgers. This guy's a fool.
Of course not.
No, but Adams and BTJ, I thought, that's pretty fun. And you got Adams at a super low roster percentage, likely.
And you also got a 99th percentile outcome from Adams because he had literally 0 points at halftime. This was all in the second half. Just unreal.
It was a fun. Can we at least say this? I looked at him, but Mac Jones is kind of fun for DFS.
I don't know if I go that far.
He's got some swag too.
He's willing to chuck it to Brian Thomas Jr., which is great. But yeah,
Brenton?
There's some
Penn
plays
State great.
where he's getting a little shifty, trying to create some after trying to avoid a sack and pick up like 4 yards. It looks like an unbelievable amount of effort to get 5 yards rushing from Mac Jones. But man, he is grinding out there. So yeah, go ahead, McCorkle, have a day.
Yeah, there you go. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back.
State of the main slate.
Each week, we will be referring to the DraftKings Sportsbook lines. Is where Betz and myself play. You can go to sportsbook.draftkings.com, and we are looking forward to the Week 16 slate. Make sure that you understand what the main slate is. If you're playing the main slate, or if you're playing a full slate, there's a lot of games to work with. But currently on the main slate, Betz, we do not have a game above 50. In fact, we don't have one over 50 for the entire week currently. However, I'm looking in front of me 6, 7 games, all kind of in that 45, 46, 47 window, 48. So that's the spot usually we like to attack, but we like to attack it with leverage. Anything you're noticing about this slate? Because there's a lot of games that are good, just not great.
Yeah, that highest total is in the Tampa-Dallas game, which is one of the primetime games. So yeah, it's Cincy and Cleveland is the highest at 48. But, if you like a game, like Kyle said, in the low 40s to mid 40s, like don't be afraid to prioritize it, especially if the stacks are clean, players project well, and the roster percentage is not there, because I don't think there's a slam dunk game environment on the slate. Like last week, that clearly was Detroit and Buffalo. I don't think that exists on this slate personally. And if people are just going to flock to Cincy Cleveland because of the total, I mean, we've seen the Jameis Winston experience. It could go great. It could go terrible, right? Like, so there's reasons to get away from it. And there's also a non-zero chance that they start DTR this week. I hope they don't.
Please don't do that.
The line will change if that happens, and obviously you'll get that news. But the point is, don't be afraid to find a game you like in that middle tier and try to get some leverage that way.
Yeah, I'm looking at this slate, and I need Jameis to be a part of it.
For Judy or who?
For just fun.
Yeah.
For even just keeping pace with the Bengals. Like, some of these options are expensive, and it's like, yeah, you can lead into like Bengals onslaught stacks. I mean, they have a good, healthy team applied total, but Jameis games push the pace. We know that the play volume goes up. Cincinnati games have hit the over in 6 of the last 7. And the crazy part about Cleveland is, despite we know that's a team with passing volume and Chubb's out for the year, and it's like they're still too cheap. Like, Judy is way too cheap for the player that he is and the volume that he is and the consistency. So anyway, I need Jameis to make this an even better game environment. Give me the teams with the top team implied totals.
All right, the Bills. They're going to be going for, will this be their 9th week in a row if they hit 30 points? I think they've hit it in 8 straight, but they're at 30.3 implied points. They are just crushing right now. The Bengals, 27.5. The Lions, 26.3. Arizona, 25.5. And then the Rams at 25 points.
I can confirm the Bills have hit it 8 weeks in a row.
Unbelievable. Their offense is just unstoppable right now. I'm sure the Patriots will hold them down. Don't worry.
Oh, man. So super selfish moment right here on a podcast, but in my home league, which I got the bye, which is, another way just to tell everyone I'm there. I'm right there. I have James Cook in the Buffalo defense, and I'm facing Josh Allen.
Oh, I mean, on one hand, Josh Allen shouldn't be scoring 50 points every single week in fantasy, right? Like, eventually he's going to have a quote unquote normal 20-point game or 25-point game. Maybe this is the week for you, Kyle.
Oh, I was thinking more of like a 16-point normal game, and Cook they just ride Cook.
I don't think that's going to happen.
And the defensive scores, I mean, I'm already seeing it now.
I hope for you that happens, but I don't think it's likely.
Yeah, there's a lot of different names in Buffalo. That's just a hard thing. Like, it's like if you wanted to stack up Allen, you skinny stack him and hope that you pick the right option. This past week, the right option was, did you stack Allen and James Cook together?
Yep. It's kind of tough.
James Cook is such a fun tournament play. I have a really hard time ever playing him in cash because you look at Josh Allen, you look at what he can do around the goal line. But I feel like James Cook is a player who has 13 rushing touchdowns this year, that he kind of ebbs and flows, where you and I are like, I can't really play him at all, but nobody else is going to play him. So in tournament, if you want to use him as a wipeout pick, or, crazy that you could have stacked him with Allen and made out really well, it's a really good one. So there's also Thursday night game, 2 Saturday games, Sunday night football, Monday night football. So make sure you check the schedule. On the main slate, I mentioned Cleveland, Cincinnati. I think that's going to be the most popular if we get Jameis. He has the highest total, and everybody wants to play Bengals options, and everybody wants to play Browns pass catchers because they're cheap and they get a ton of volume. But what other game do you like this week?
Yeah, I put down here Arizona and Carolina. Arizona is going to project great. They got one of the highest team totals on the slate. James Conner is in a beautiful spot, so I think he's going to be quite popular. Kyler, unfortunately, is going to project well again. His price is basically the same. It's a good matchup. Yet again, we're going back to the Trey McBride touchdown incoming. So I think there's a lot of ways people are going to play Arizona. And then on the Carolina side, Chuba's again going to project great in a pretty good matchup. And then Xavier Legette is probably not playing in this game because of a groin issue. So you get a pretty clear spot where the targets should continue to condense around Adam Thielen and maybe David Moore and, the boys.
Jalen Coker,
right? So you get some cheap stacking partners with Bryce. So I just think it's an easy way to play the game where it's not going to break the bank, but there's also some narratives at play with like Trey McBride. I think the field is going to flock here again.
Do you think we double down and give out another Trey McBride anytime touchdown?
That was so painful, dude. They tried to get it to him on the little shovel pass at the 1 yard line. And I was like, oh, baby, here we go. And it didn't happen. So I don't know if we're going to make it an official, but I will personally be betting it.
Okay, good. Because also, super selfish moment, he is on that same team, and I will be playing against James Conner.
Yeah, I think this is the week. I mean, it's the Panthers, right? Like, it's got to happen.
You think every single week they have like a game plan, they have their meetings, and they're just like, okay, Trey, this is the week, buddy. Here, we got this play. We got it lined up for you. And we're going to use it, so you be ready, Trey. And he's just sitting there, super stoked. Did you see that what Jonathan Gannon said about McBride?
No, I haven't seen it.
He had some presser where he was basically talking him up, and he's like, he's going to make a ton of money. Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
Oh, I did see that, yeah.
He's talking about an extension. Yeah, he's awesome. Sneakiest game this week. Tell me if you disagree. But I put Philly and Washington. The total's lower than you want it to be. You'd love for it to be in that 47 range. But there's a lot of ones you have to pick from. And Washington's one of those teams that it's easy to kind of think about what they've been. Jay Daniels has been efficient, but they've always wanted to run the ball. Since week 8, their pass rate has kind of skyrocketed, where they've been averaging 37 pass attempts per game, the 10th most in the NFL, and the second most plays per game. So in terms of pace, you have to kind of look at the Washington season and shift it, and also against Philly, a team that you can't run the ball against. So I kind of like this game as a sneaky spot. And last year, remember, we talked about those Philly-Washington games, just these barn burners with Sam Howell. They could barely put him away. I kind of like Washington in this game at home.
Divisional rematch, second matchup. Yeah, it's tough. It's like, not that Zach Ertz is like a game changer by any means, but like behind
narrative,
he might not play. He's in concussion protocol.
I know, that's what I'm saying. The narrative was there for us to say he's going to want to get one against Philly.
So much revenge in his heart. No, he loves Philly. But my point is, like, behind Terry, it's hard to see the ceiling for the guys that he's throwing the ball to. Like, we'll talk about the Senator. Maybe he's a punt option this week if Ertz doesn't play, but it's Zacchaeus, it's De'Ami Brown, who just is a wind sprint guy. Like, it's just not great. So if you're playing it, I think you're playing it through Jaden and Terry and just hoping everything goes to Terry, because it always does. And Jaden Daniels runs a ton. So that would be the angle for me. I do actually want to point out quickly in that game, we're not really going to talk about him as like an early cash play, but it is worth noting that A.J. Brown's price on a main slate is the lowest it has been since his first game off of injury back in week 6. So it's kind of interesting, affordable for a tournament option. So I see where you're going with it for sure. But obviously, the Washington skill guys are kind of tough.
Dude, Devonta Smith's super cheap.
Yeah.
Like, incredibly cheap coming off of a really big game. If you want more discussion, I've been doing a deep dive on the Washington pass game because, we're kind of seeing this uptick. I don't know what their plan is. Like, when they drafted Jaden Daniels, what was their plan beyond this year at wide receiver? Because it's like they basically don't have anybody else under contract. They have Terry and then Luke McCaffrey, and then nobody else is under contract beyond this next year. So it's the right way to build an organization, but dynasty-wise, we'll bring it up on the Dynasty podcast this week of like what they do, because they literally do not have anyone else under contract, and they're not even giving McCaffrey the snaps. Did you notice that? Like,
yeah, he's not even playing.
Yeah, Noah Brown's out, and all of a sudden it's just like they're just running dudes around. Jamison Crowder is stepping up. So give me a sneaky game this week.
I'm going to throw out the Rams and the Jets. Now, I will say, the first just like gut feel I have of the Rams on the road in New York in December, I don't know if it's just vibes based, but like historically when I think about these Stafford shootouts, it's like they're always at home, they're in a dome, it kind of goes like that. But as far as the actual on paper data right now, like it's pretty good. I mean, the Jets are throwing a ton. Breece Hall's still banged up, right? And like I talked about with the Rodgers stacks, if it hits, you know exactly where it's going. It's a good matchup. And then on the Rams side, it's the same exact conversation. If a Stafford double stack is going to hit, you know for sure it's going through Puka and Kupp, and the Jets defense right now is just terrible. Over the last 6 weeks, they are 31st in EPA per play. Only the Jaguars are worse, and they are dead last in EPA per dropback, which is a very funny sentence to say because when you entered the year, it was like this Jets defense, the secondary is going to be just dominant. But no, they've been one of the worst in football. So it's a good spot for Stafford, for Puka, and for Kupp. But like I said, just, don't you, like when you see Stafford having these huge games, it's not December cold weather in New York. But at the same time, if nobody's going to play it from roster percentage standpoint, I will certainly be interested.
I thought the spread was kind of funny.
What is it? What's the spread?
3.5. Rams minus 3.5.
Rams favored, yeah. 3.5. On the road, West Coast team traveling across the country. I guess it kind of makes sense.
I would take the Jets in 3.5. But
would you?
Everyone comes here for my betting advice.
Wow, you would take. So you saw Rodgers have his first good game back-to-back weeks in 4 years, and now you're like, I'm backing on the Jets. Okay, everybody, run to your sports book. Rams minus 3.5. Kyle just guaranteed us is the lock of the week.
I don't feel that conviction, but I do feel like I agree with you. I think it's a game for DFS that we need to play. And if I was in a pick'em league with my company, I will be taking the Jets plus 3.5. If this stays.
I can't do it. I get where you're coming from, though. I can't do it.
That's fine. People come here for lots of takes. And my betting one is what not to do.
Exactly. If you just fade Kyle's sides and totals bets, I mean, you're probably retired at this point.
Well, don't fade my 50-point totals.
Right.
Although I don't know if you remember Buffalo, Detroit. I was like, I'll probably take the under.
Whoops.
Which game do you want to be underweight on this week? I'm just going to start off by saying real quickly, I will be underweight Atlanta and New York, the Giants. Apart from Bijan, who has been getting the workload. Like if you have Bijan in a home league, you're probably like ecstatic that he's gotten the workload. He's been a top 5 running back this year. That's great. Atlanta has not covered the spread since week 9. Their games have hit the under in 5 of the last 6. The Giants are dead last in points per game. And I sent Betz a picture of my stress meter from my like Whoop like health thing. And I was super stressed during that Falcons game. And I'm telling you, like, super stressed. This isn't good. Desmond Ridder is like at least hanging in this game. I went to bed because this game was so boring. Slept great. And I guess I missed out on another half of just total stress. But this Falcons team is broken.
Oh, man, they're so tough to watch. Yeah, and it's like I don't know if you watched. I was watching the other Monday night game with the sound on. I had this one on mute. And when it went to halftime or when that game ended, I turned the sound on and listened. And like in the last like 2 drives, they were like, do you think they trust Cousins here to convert this 3rd and 4? Like it's like, what is happening? Like they're literally not even like letting Kirk throw. He attempted like, I don't know, 18 passes or something off the top of my head.
Do you know how many passes they attempted on first down?
I can't imagine it's more than like 5.
It's 0.
Oh my. See, they're playing scared offensively because of how bad it's been for Kirk.
We played to not lose, and thanks to Jesse Bates, like saying like we are not going to lose this way, to Desmond Ridder throwing a Hail Mary. That's the only reason. Like I hate us
when
right
they
now.
play. If they play that style of football against the Giants, they can probably still win. But if they play anybody competent and they try to do that, they're going to get boat raced. So I texted you this before the show. I was like, man, the teams that I'm like so annoyed to watch this year, like can we just move on to next year? I mean, the Jets have had a little resurgence, but still it's like enough with the Jets already. The Falcons are right there, man. I mean, this is a train wreck. So yeah, I don't want to play the Giants and Falcons. I'm with you.
I'm trying to look at teams that I literally hate watching them. And trust me, like I love football. I like all the players. I like watching Brock Bowers. I hate watching the Raiders though.
Yeah, it's tough.
The Falcons, I obviously hate them with a burning passion. The Giants, I hate. Oh wait, the Falcons and Giants are playing each other. Oh, and also I hate watching the Saints. I can't stand Spencer Rattler.
The Rat Tail almost pulled off the upset, baby. Jake Haener was a train wreck. this past week.
Oh, he was Jake Hanus. They hate us because they ain't heinous. And also, I hate the Titans.
Yes, also accurate. Okay, enough. Let's move on. So this is an interesting spot. Minnesota and Seattle. The total is only 42.5, quite low. The market right now is, I think, baking in probably greater than 50% chance that Geno does not play, but we don't know that information. So if we get Sam Howell, think back to last year. Like, there was a lot of fun moments for DFS with Sam Howell where it was just pass volume and it was crazy.
It was Sack City.
I think that could happen, but there is also a range of outcomes that exists where Seattle is in a complete train wreck if it's Sam Howell against Minnesota and the ability for them to generate pressure. Last year, Sam Howell against pressure, a 5-15 touchdown to interception ratio, a 23% pressure to sack ratio. The Seattle offensive line has been quite bad this year. They're 28th in PFF's pass block grade. They're 22nd in ESPN's pass block win rate. And the Vikings are a top 10 team in pressure rate. So if you get that combination, I think there's a good chance Sam Howell fails here, which when you think about like the matchup, you're like, okay, negative game script, they should be trailing. Maybe it's just volume for JSN and Metcalf. I don't know, man. So I'm not in this game if it's going to be Sam Howell. I'm quite worried about it.
Yeah, it was fun looking at it and going, oh man, remember that was, and it's like, he didn't support any top end options. If you forget about that, like Washington didn't have anybody last year that you liked for DFS purposes. There's like a couple of games where Jahan Dotson was alive and McLaurin caught like 4 touchdowns on the season.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. We have hazy memories of having Sam Howell as a cheap dude. Team most confident hits the over. Apparently I like the Jets, man.
Jets, Jets. Kyle is all in on the Jets. He loves them. He's loved them since week 1. Talk to me.
Do not say that because I have liked what I've seen recently.
Okay.
And they've hit 21 plus points in 4 straight. Their team implied total is 21.5. They're at home. I talked earlier. I don't mind the spread, but the Rams defense over the last 6 weeks, it's been very clear. Quarterbacks and wide receivers have gone off. And last week, the formula was you just stack up Rodgers with those options. And so I think the Jets at home can hit this mark. And they're a team that I'll probably figure out different ways in DFS to attack.
Okay. Makes sense. I'm going to go with the Dolphins at home. Now, I don't know that Jalen Waddle plays, which is not great, but they still got Tyreek. They've got Jonnu. They've got Achane. San Francisco's defense has played better in the last game or two, but they're still 19th in EPA per play since week 10. So it's not a terrible matchup. And the Dolphins historically on the road, generally a decent fade candidate. At home, they have been very good. Since tour return, they have scored 27, 27, 23, 34, 34, 17, 32, and 12 points. So more often than not, they are getting to this mark. So I will take Miami to go over 23.8 at home.
All right, which team are you most confident hits the under of their team implied total? I said earlier, the Giants. I don't want any part of their 16.5. They're dead last in points per game, so they're averaging 15 points per game, and they have to come to Atlanta.
Ho. Good luck walking into that stadium. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, dude. I mean, I don't care who you throw at us. Is it Tommy DeVito? Is it Drew Lock? Is it Tim Boyle? God, that's so bad. That's historically bad who they're running out there. And Atlanta kind of has a pass rush recently. 5, 4, and 4 sacks since their week 13 bye. So if it's Tommy DeVito, the Falcons are going to be a popular play in home leagues in the playoffs. And on FanDuel, they're really, really cheap. So I don't mind if you want to play them. I mean, Tommy DeVito has the highest sack rate of all time for anybody to start 7 games in their career.
Yeah, I was actually logging in to do our salary standouts, and I was like, oh, okay, who's playing the Giants this week? Because that's kind of what we do. And I was like, oh, it's the Falcons. Like, they must be, I don't know, 3,200, like reasonably priced. They're probably going to be a good play. DraftKings was like, no, you don't. 3,700 for the Falcons defense.
On FanDuel, they're 4K, so you can play them there.
Very, very big difference. Yeah, I was shocked. So good FanDuel play, probably a little bit too expensive for cash on DraftKings. I talked about concerns with Seattle. I'll take under 19.5. In addition to just the concerns with Sam Howell, they've been under the game total for Seattle. The total has gone under in 6 of the last 8. The offense has been pretty bad as is, even with Geno. 21st in EPA, 25th in success rate over the last month and a half. And There is an early forecast that projects definite rain per NFLweather.com.
Some weather, a Tuesday weather update.
I know, and this will change, of course, but as of Tuesday, it looks like rain with potentially about 10-mile-an-hour winds. It's not great. Add that in with Sam Howell, and it's a recipe for unlikely success. So I will take under 19.5.
I feel like Seattle is the team that has teased us this year. We like, early in the year, we were like, man, their pass rate's awesome. You see Geno's attempts? This is a team we need to chase. Oh, look at JSN. He's really balling out. Dude, DK has been so bad for 2 months. 2 months straight, not just like a game or two here, like the entire time since week 8.
Okay, asking for a friend. I know it's Tuesday, but I'm looking ahead to my semifinal matchup in a Dynasty League. Would you start Darnell Mooney off of a goose against this Giants team or DK Metcalf?
If it's Howell, I will play. Dang it. I think if it's Howell, I will play Mooney.
Oh, I'm stressed. I'm already stressed. Oh boy.
I mean, I just gave you a really logical answer, but it was actually kind of a cop-out.
I know. It wasn't helpful at all.
Who's in your starting spot right now?
Metcalf.
All right, move him to wide receiver 1 spot. Don't put him in the flex, man.
He needs a little confidence boost. Come on, DK. I need you, buddy.
I did have somebody in one of my leagues like, why do you have this guy like in your wide receiver 1 spot? Like, what are you doing here? He's more of a flex. I was like, dude, I just do it based on game time, but also secondary, like I need motivation. I think Ladd McConkey is my wide receiver 1 this week because he's playing on Thursday, but also I need Ladd McConkey to ball out on a Thursday night.
I love it. Yeah, it's kind of like in hockey. You're like, this dude's going on the first line this week. Little confidence boost.
It matters. Like I do that, when I used to play NCAA football. It's like I want to put this guy from the bench. I want to boost his stats, and I'm going to put him in there, even at fullback if I need to. Run it up the gut.
I got you, man. I got you.
All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Salary standouts.
It is Tuesday, and there's a lot of names to sort through. Kind of like how we talked about last week, the way a slate kind of is shaped, the way that it forms, is over the week, you kind of see who condenses as the best plays. You get to read the slate, kind of say, okay, well, here's the 4 or 5 guys at running back. Here's the, chalk play. Like last week, everybody was going to punt tight end. And Trey McBride was played, a little bit, but you knew everybody was going with the Stone Man. Now, he wasn't the Stone Min, though. That was a problem. I wanted that to be a thing. He was at $2,600.
That would have been perfect for content. Just $100 cheaper. Come on, DraftKings.
Do you think if Will Disley doesn't play, like Stone Smart's going to be like the optimal captain on Thursday night, and he's going to be the cover boy of your article?
I mean, just for the bit, I might make him the cover boy if there's even photos that exist in the provider we use.
When Betz and I, we do all the recording, we submit our stuff, and then our production team puts together everything like on the back end, and we get to submit who the cover boy is. And there was a point this year where I was like, I want Kate Otten to be the cover boy of this podcast. And I had to make sure to tell them, like, this is not a joke. Because there's a point where he was a thing. He's kind of faded back to where he belongs.
That
sadly.
feels like years ago, doesn't it?
I mean, there's people that are like, oh my gosh, I picked up Kate Otten. This guy is the tight end 4 or whatever over a certain span. I've got this on lockdown. This guy is going to help me win a championship. And the whole time, Betz and I are just sitting there like, don't get me wrong. We love this guy. This dude is super necessary in the moment when Evans and Godwin are out. And then he just fades away. And he's going to get a fat contract.
Hopefully. I hope he gets paid.
I think he will. So this is Tuesday. We're going to talk about our salary standouts. At quarterback, the 6K range, the low 6K range has a bunch of dudes that look good. And then the 5K range, I want to get your thoughts on these guys early in the week. But Brock Purdy, he's 6.3 at Miami. I think he looks great. Kyler, if you have the stones to do it, is fine. But I think there's some fatigue with Kyler this year. In redraft circles, in best ball was like, oh, there's upside here with Kyler. Same thing in DFS. So I don't know. What are your thoughts early in the week on Kyler?
Yeah, I think he's one of those guys that I want to play in tournaments when he is not going to be popular and consider fading when he is going to be popular. And that's kind of the frustration with Kyler, right? It's like every time you expect him to show up, he disappears. And when all of a sudden everybody's off of him, he'll pop up for a nice game, and add some rushing to it. So, yeah, I played last week in cash. It was really frustrating. I probably won't play him again in cash, but the matchup is there. It's Carolina, and I almost can guarantee you James Conner is going to be the most popular running back play on the slate. So GPP 101, right? Play the stacking partners around the running back and get leverage.
Yep.
So in a tournament, I think it's a play. I don't necessarily want to go back there in cash though.
All right, I want to bring up these quarterbacks in the low 5K range on DraftKings because a lot of them have good talking points. We like the salary savings. We might be stacking them up in cash with some of their guys. So Aaron Rodgers at 5.6, who we haven't talked about at all. People might like him. Anthony Richardson at 5.4 at home against the Titans is going to project really well. Jameis at 5.3 is another guy that you can look at. So, I mean, you can get even grosser if you want to. Go down to your boy Mac Daddy Jones. I can't play Sam Howell, but there's some interesting plays. Even Caleb Williams, who looked terrible, is interesting at 5.5, and he's had moments too where, he just kind of backdoors his way. So I can see some of these guys working out. I didn't mention Kirk Cousins though.
Yeah. This range actually looks nice, and it's kind of been a good spot for tournaments to attack this year. If you can get ceiling from a mid 5K quarterback and his stacking partners are pretty reasonably priced, it's a good way to generate ceiling at a low cost in DFS. So whether it's tournaments or cash games, I do think this range is pretty good. Jameis, really good spot against Cincy, assuming he gets the nod again this week. So I do like him quite a bit. It just makes you a little uneasy for cash games just because you know what the floor is. But the price tag is right. So I like that call quite a bit. Yeah, Richardson, I mean, at 5,400, even though the passing is still so bad, completed less than 50% again last week of his throws, the rushing is there, and he's always a candidate to score with his legs. So those guys make a lot of sense. It does look like a week to me personally where, again, in cash games, there's not like a straightforward like slam dunk play. So in tournaments, it's a good spot to get different.
I have to wait on Richardson though. I feel like he's the one that I log in, I look at the matchups, I look at, he's at home, and I go, I feel like that can work at 5.4. And yet he's such a tough click sometimes. So talk to me later in the week, Betz. See how I feel. Check in on A-Rich. Just send me a text. Okay.
I will.
I think you can schedule text now. I think that's on the new update. So if you want to,
didn't know that.
Want to do that, you can do that on FanDuel. We usually like paying up for quarterbacks. So if you like Josh Allen, join the club. But Jaden Daniels at 8.2, I think is a good price for the rushing floor in a game environment I brought up earlier. He's 8.2. I think he's a solid play there. Jalen Hurts a little bit more expensive, but he's also looks pretty good. At running back, there are some plays that are very, very obvious earlier in the week, and they're the high price guys. So Bijan at home at 8.1 against the Giants, a team that we've talked all year. You can run against him. He's seen 22 plus carries in like 4 straight games. Like he's been getting the workload that we want. Jahmyr Gibbs at 7.5. We have the news about David Montgomery being out for the rest of the year. He was priced before this. So now, knowing all this information, knowing like he should probably be $1,000 more expensive. So do you feel like he's going to be, pretty popular in lineups?
Yeah, definitely. And because both these guys, when you drafted them, even like in August, right? Like the conversation was, these guys are going to be great even if both stay healthy. But imagine if one of these guys goes down, and now you get that scenario. So yeah, Gibbs is going to be potentially the most popular play on the slate for good reason. We know the offense is going to roll, or it should anyway. It's a great matchup against the Bears. You can run all over the Bears. Gibbs is super explosive. He'll catch the ball. So yes, I think he's a standout play. Just real quick for context, last year in 3 games without Montgomery, he averaged 22.5 PPR points per game, caught 5 balls a game, also carried the ball 18 times per game. So you're getting a unreal workload on one of the best offenses in football. I don't think you ever think it.
I think he's going to be 70+% in double ups. Maybe
most
more.
likely.
Okay. So Bijan and Gibbs probably in the high range. And then Connor, you mentioned him earlier at 7.1, is going to be super popular. It's tough though. Like if you wanted to pay up for two of those guys, let's say it's Gibbs and Bijan or Gibbs and Connor, it's a lot of salary. You're probably paying down at wide receiver somewhere, although there's some great plays. So keep in mind, like last week, the chalk condensed around Chuba and Rico. And, Chase was the most popular wide receiver in cash, but he wasn't like out of control. But it gives you access to kind of have different builds if you want to say, I'm paying up here. How can I at least get different in one other spot? Because there's so many teams. Like I'm never worried about the chalk condensing when we have a full slate with this many games on it. And there's no standout games, right? Nobody's flocking like we have to play this one game. So be willing to get different. The cheaper guys, Aaron Jones, I think is a solid play at 6.4. He looked really good on Monday night. And then Zach Charbonnet in the same game is 6K. I'm interested in one of those two dudes.
For me, it'd be Jones, no question. I just think there's so much less offensive systemic risk, assuming it's not Geno Smith, and also assuming, obviously, Kem Walker is out. But yeah, Jones just looks so good, so explosive. They're kind of looking for spots to like take workload off of him as the playoffs get closer. You saw Cam Akers a little bit more in the blowout, but I think we overthink those things sometimes. Like if Cam Akers is getting run in the second half, it's probably because Aaron Jones is having a great game. So I love Aaron Jones this week, taking on Seattle. Obviously, Minnesota favorite in that one. So that makes a lot of sense to me as well.
On FanDuel, I mean, Gibbs is way too cheap there too at 8.3. So I think Gibbs is going to be the top play. I'm telling you right now on a Tuesday.
He'll probably be the cover boy for best plays, don't you think?
No, I'm going to use him up.
Oh, no, come on.
That's a little inner struggle every single week. Is like you can't just keep using the same player over and over again to be the cover image of our articles and on the DFS pass. So it's kind of like this give and take. You kind of slowly talk about certain plays and then make sure on Saturday, like the dude is the dude.
Right.
And so, somebody's going to use Gibbs though.
Fine. But the cover boy, like historically, going back to the last couple of years, has had a really good hit rate on best plays. So no pressure, Kyle.
The cover boy. At wide receiver, I wanted to bring up my boy Juwan Jennings. Don't know if you've heard of him.
I've heard of him.
5.9. So it's a cheap tag. We've talked about his usage all year long. So I think he's going to fit really nicely in a lot of cash lineups. It's like, okay, I'm paying up a running back. Let me find a couple guys in this mid-range. Juwan Jennings, Jerry Jeudy at 6.7, Drake London 6.4, Brian Thomas Jr. 6.3, JSN 6K. There's a lot of dudes here. DJ Moore 5.7. Like I could name 6 guys right now that I'm like, I like them at their price.
For sure. That range is the sweet spot this week. I agree with you on all those guys. I like them all. Real quick on Jennings, he has seen a 20+% target share in every game he has played since he's become kind of the dude back in week 10. So he looks incredible. And then you drop down to like, this Brian Thomas Jr. tag. It's like for his role right now, should be way more expensive. Over the last 3 weeks, he's got a 31% target share, almost a 45% air yard share. So like his usage right now is like alpha wide receiver 1 type stuff. So love those guys. I will also note that if Jalen Waddle is out, Tyreek Hill becomes very interesting at his price tag, but also a punt play that could open up is Malik Washington, the rookie 6-rounder out of, I think, Virginia. Is that right?
Virginia.
3,700 taking on the Niners. Last week, he played 60% of the snaps and saw 6 targets. And, throughout the season, they've kind of used him on like jet sweeps, stuff like that as well. That would be if Waddle out. Obviously, no Odell Beckham. They cut him. So I think he'd pretty much run as the wide receiver 2 across from Tyreek.
Yeah, I agree with the rationale of like he's going to make sense at his price point. He doesn't replace Waddle in the same way of like he's obviously not going to be utilized the same way. It's going to be more Jonnu looks. But at 3.7, like you're not asking him to do a ton. I did want to mention our boy Pop Douglas. He's 4.4, so a little bit more expensive. I get it. He's not the sexiest name you could bring up. Let me read you his DraftKings total. If you want 10 points bets, this might be your guy.
What if you want 12?
No, he can't do that.
Okay.
Listen, 10.5, 9, 10.9, 11.3, 6, 10.1. He's a 10 guy.
If you want between 6 and 10 points, no less, no more, this is your guy.
they're going to have to throw a ton against Buffalo.
Definitely.
So he's interesting at that price. On FanDuel, really on both sides, you can play Puka. If you just want to pay up and just say, hey, I'm going to get, 14 targets, whatever. He's just getting insane in volume. And we've talked about how bad the Jets pass defense. Puka, Juwan Jennings on FanDuel is only $7K. DJ Moore is only 6.3 on FanDuel.
That's crazy.
Disrespected, man.
That's crazy. And, the offense as a whole is kind of broken right now. Like it's not great. But, I mean, he's seen a 23+% target share in 6 of his last 7 games. It's like, how bad could it be for a guy like DJ Moore, who's obviously very talented? So, yeah, that's a standout FanDuel misprice is what it feels like.
At tight end, play Trey McBride if you want.
This is the week. Come on, baby.
Can I play you the audio from last week when we said that?
And the week before, and the week before, and the week before that. Oh, man. I wonder how the books will adjust his touchdown prop. Because it was
plus 175.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll give terrible odds just
they
because
got
of the
a ton
narrative.
of action, I bet, on it.
I'm sure, yeah. Well, we got to get on it early, Kyle.
Fire it away now. Just, might as well throw the 2 touchdown.
Looking to see if it's available. All right, it's not up yet, but we'll talk Friday.
If you really want to deposit some money before Christmas, this is the way to do it.
That's right.
All right, so Trey McBride is going to project really well, 6.2. Hunter Henry, another name that you can throw in there at 4.1. I wish he was a little cheaper, but he works there. And then the 3K range, if you want to go back to Brenton Strange, dude saw 12 targets.
Penn State great.
Penn State great. We used him earlier in the year, and I was so mad at myself because Betz gets all the behind the scenes stuff of me just hooting and hollering about stuff. I'm like, gosh, I hate Stone Smart. I don't want to play him. Everyone's playing him. This is stupid. I like Brenton Strange. 5 minutes before I went to Stone Smart.
I do think that's a really good example of last week. Just like there's some spots where the projections are so strong because the player's been in the league for a while. The quarterback, how the team operates, that sort of stuff. Like with Puka, right? His projections rock solid because you know what you're getting. When you get down into this range, do not be afraid to pivot. I mean, Stone Smart was good for cash, right? If you played him,
for cash,
he did his job. But the rate at which Stone Smart was played in tournaments relative to Brenton Strange, even though I think their chances of having a ceiling outcome, whatever that even is, was kind of a coin flip. Yet the roster percentage was way in favor of Stone Smart. So I do think if you pivoted last week in tournaments, that was a very, very sharp move.
Yeah. He's $1,000 more expensive this week. So it's not the same exact opportunity cost. Grant Calcaterra is 3.4, and he's been on the field 90+% of the snaps. Another punt option. I need you to talk to the people about the Senator. If I can find this really great drop.
I am the Senate.
Kyle, it took a long time to get here. Hey, how's our big dog team doing, by the way?
Dude, our big dog team.
It's over. We are screwed.
We had Ben Sinnott as our tight end too, behind George Kittle. And Kyle, we weren't wrong. We were just early. Ben Sinnott is here to save best ball teams in week 16. Obviously, he'd only be in play for DFS if Zach Ertz is ruled out with a concussion. He played 54% of the snaps last week. That was his highest of the year. I think he'd be almost an every down player. Now, the production this year has been literally nothing. He's caught 5 balls all season. So this is a bit of a wish casting situation, but just if you're looking for a cheap potential punt, the Senator will be in play if no Ertz. He is 2,800 on DraftKings.
Dude, they have to figure out ways to use him this next year because they don't have anyone else on the roster.
I mean, they have to. You'd think that they attack it, the wide receiver position in the draft, I would assume, or go after some guys in free agency with Jane Daniels on his rookie deal is what I would think.
They used the 53rd overall pick on this guy.
I mean, we liked him coming out. He's talented. It's just with tight ends, it's, not everybody's Brock Bowers. Obviously, it takes some time. So he'll have a chance if Ertz is out.
His profile picture on our site looks like a dude that, one, doesn't play in the NFL, but also, Dude, like, do you even realize where you are? Like, do you even belong in the NFL? That's what I worry about.
Sometimes I do laugh at our headshots that are on the site.
Oh, dude, the best one, if you want to, is let's see if it's still TJ Hawkinson.
Oh, I love Hawkinson's, dude.
Okay, if you want a fun little activity, and maybe I'll give out some swag if you find me some fun ones. But we have player profiles on our site, fantasyfootballers.com. Top right, you can search for players, and their profile pictures. Some of them are like a year or two old, or whatever. But we get this data from somewhere else, so we're not the ones like supplying it. So we have no control. But TJ Hawkinson literally looked like someone put a piece of bacon and cooked it on his forehead.
Where the pressure from the helmet is just so intense. Yeah, it is. Every time I go to his page, I laugh at it. It's so good.
Yeah. So Baconhead, TJ Hawkinson, if you wanna check that out, it's a fun little task. A little holiday scavenger hunt for our people to go on our website and just search for player stuff.
Everybody's circling around their tree. Kids are opening up gifts, and you're just sitting there with your family. Hey, honey, look at that! Look at this picture of TJ Hawkinson. This is hilarious. That's a great way to spend your time.
It's also where you get to see all the nicknames.
Yeah,
that we put in. So, Rashad White's nickname. Who could forget?
Richard.
Okay. Oh, Hawkinson. Speaking of Hawkinson, he's actually a fine play on FanDuel at 5.8. He's too cheap. Henry's too cheap. Forgot where I was going there. I was so distracted by the bacon head.
That was such a genuine reaction. You're like, oh, actually, I kind of forgot I was going to talk about him. Great transition, Kyle. You're such a pro podcaster.
I'm a dog owner now. I mean, I'm a new person. All right, defense. If you want to play the Colts at home against Will Levis, just do it because his coach hates him. I'm assuming he's at the point now where he's just a broken man, and he knows where he's going, and that's out of the league. This guy is not going to be in the league in 2 years.
I do think there's a somewhat decent chance Mason Rudolph starts in this game. I mean, Levis got benched last week. Like, they kind of know. They know it's over. He knows it's over. We all know it's over. So I wouldn't be shocked.
Do you remember when people were like, this guy's going number 2 overall?
Oh my gosh, dude, we're almost at that time of the year again. NFL draft rumor season. It's a fun time.
So the Colts at 3K I think are too cheap. The Jets at home, I don't like the defense, but the price tag is great. And I mean, come on, they're only 3.5 point home dogs. I mean, what a line.
You're sick.
Okay, talk to me about punting all the way down to the Bears at home at 2.2.
I mean, the question is just, like, it's not a good play, right? Like, the Bears defense is not good right now.
It's like the Browns this past week, though.
And the Browns gave you 0, right? 0 points.
It's like it never happened.
It's like you just never had those guys in your lineup. So at 2,200, if you have a lineup that you like in cash, and that's like the last thing in, I think it's totally fine. I mean, there's nothing really great we could say about them. They're not playing well defensively. The offensive line for the Lions is one of the best in football. They should give up a ton of points, but like if they give you, I don't know, 4 points, 5 points, and the rest of your lineup works, it might be okay. So it's just a pricing thing. 2,200 is just insanely cheap.
Yeah, and last week, you might look at your lineup and be like, oh, the Browns screwed me over. They got 0. Like, they were played by 40+% of people in double ups. And it's one of those things where you move on. They didn't help you. I mean, none of the other defenses were that great either. So
right, for cash games.
It's one of those things. Same thing with quarterback. Kyler did not lose you anything in cash. Right. And Herbert didn't win anybody anything in cash. It was just the main part was the wide receiver. So if you have a lineup you like, you're able to pay up and you want to punt to the Bears, that's fine. I mean, the Lions are just destroyed with injuries everywhere, but still a good offense. If you want to play with us, go to ballersdfs.com. We'll direct you to our DraftKings League, Fantasy Footballers DFS Borg Betz. You join the league, enter the contest, and earlier we talked about some people that got to win that for the very first time, and you get to place in a smaller field tournament. So hop on in, ballersdfs.com. Tell everyone goodbye.
Yes, sir. Hopefully everybody has an awesome week. We'll be back on Friday to preview this main slate, but there's not a better time, in my opinion, to join the DK League because we'll have Thursday night. We get a 2-gamer Saturday, and we get prime time for Sunday and Monday, and I'll have contests in there for all of those slates. So come play with us on DraftKings, and we'll see you guys on Friday. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.